of time that you are the son that you hang out with the most. And while I am doing the best that I can to do that in my personal life, I've also decided to do that as a business owner and an entrepreneur. So I have found 5 other business owners that I want to be like. And the guest today is one of these, is one of my top 5. Les Patterson is the owner of the Red Edge Mentoring. He really is a business mentor. He's also a speaker. He's also a storyteller. That's what I love about Les is I am that silly little kid that never outgrew the kindergarten story time and like sitting and listening to stories. I love that about Les, his stories. And he really empowers leaders to intentionally find your greatness. And those are incredibly powerful words, if I do say so. He launched the Red Edge Mentoring in 2016 when a lot of people said you can't really do that. And that was a story. Speaking of stories, Les, you kind of believed that story for a little bit yourself until you said, nope, never mind. I'm going to go do my own thing and be my own person. And the Red Edge Mentoring groups that you lead are incredibly powerful. And they do just that. They empower you to intentionally find your greatness. So with the power of 3, with the, earning your right for the next conversation, there are so many things that you touch on, but whatever you do, it is with that eye of intentionally creating your own greatness. So,
Correct.
I am so looking forward to where this conversation is going, and I'm very proud to introduce Les Patterson.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Heather. It's an honor to be able to hang out and talk about it and why greatness. I mean, of all of the things we could talk about, I mean, why in the world should we talk about greatness? I mean, and a great story. I mean, really, what does it have to do with business? What does it have to do with life? And well, I think it does have to do with business and with our life, maybe more than we realize. And so to be able to visit for a few minutes and explore some ideas and actually maybe we could share a story or two. Um,
I'm all for it.
and and discover if greatness really does have something to do with who we are. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, you said that you believed the story of the naysayers. How did you go from believing that, hey, this probably isn't the best time to do this kind of business, to get started, to stepping into that greatness, to being able to say, no, I really do have something to offer the world and I'm going to do it anyway? How did you transition between the two?
Well, the transition between the two, literally believing the naysayers, and the biggest naysayer actually was myself. I was my biggest naysayer. And then to transitioning to a point where I can say, okay, I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna step into my confidence. I'm gonna step in and say, okay, Les, I've got a voice. I have some thoughts. I have some ideas that I think they can bring value to somebody. That transition actually started clear back in my teenage years. It started and it continues today because that it's because I don't know if it really is a transition, if it more is a journey of discovering that we may be broken, but we still have incredible greatness. We may have made mistakes, but we can still make an incredible impact. We may realize that we are not as good as somebody else, maybe even somebody else directly kind of in our same area, but yet we can still offer something of incredible value to another person, to an organization, to a business, to a family.
And I think
And
that's,
it starts
sorry to
here.
interrupt, but I think the value, Les, is one of the most important things that I've learned from you is, I'm one of these, I like talking into the microphone, I like teaching, but it doesn't necessarily mean that every time I open my mouth, I'm adding value to a conversation. So since since I've worked with you and since I've, been following what you have to say, I think that's one of the biggest shifts that I've undergone is every time I open my mouth, am I adding value to
Mhm.
whatever is going on, whether that's adding value as a mom, whether that's adding value to a networking meeting or to a client. Am I adding value or am I just moving hot air,
Well, and sometimes the way that we add value is literally just to chit chat. Two friends hanging out and just talking. Sometimes the way we add value is to close the lips and just listen. That's a lesson us as men uh,
Yeah.
need to remember that something that's a special loved one in our life, the best value that we can give is just to listen. And when we give value, then people have an opportunity to feel our love. And when they can see some value and feel our love, then we can build a level of trust, which helps us earn the right for that next conversation, which is, an area we can get into. But if we haven't yet discovered a little more inside ourselves that we do have some value to offer, that we do have some love, that we can be trusted, that we can trust ourselves, that we can love ourselves, that we can have value in ourselves, how are we as a leader? How are we as an influencer? How are we as a parent, a spouse, a sibling? How are we ever going to help someone else in whatever in our home, in our head, and our health as Heather and Ashley, as the two of you focus on helping people discover if we're still struggling, continually struggling inside ourselves to discover that. So that's why I think it's a journey rather than just a transition. It's a journey I'm still on today. I think I'll be on my entire life. Now, I've learned some skills and some techniques and some promises that I think are really, really powerful. Um, but I'm going to keep implementing them every day because I have to. I have to. From my teenage years when I first started to discover it, and to 2 weeks ago when I was on a beach in Siesta Key, Florida, with my wife celebrating our 32nd anniversary, and that ugly truth of doubt and you're no good, Les, showed up with a vengeance. I mean, like a hurricane slamming the Gulf Coast of Florida. That's what it felt like. And man, it set me for a tumble for about 3 days. Here I am, this beautiful place, celebrating a beautiful thing of love. And this ugly truth showed up. And I had to work. I had to work really hard to, okay, Les, you've made a promise to create a story of greatness for yourself and then help others. You can keep that promise. You can keep that promise, and you can do whatever it takes to keep that promise.
I think it's hard when we all feel like no one else feels that, you know,
Yeah.
when we doubt ourselves or when we feel that imposter syndrome thing sneak up
Mm.
or,
Yeah.
any number of those, we always feel like, especially we feel like the other people who are doing whatever we're doing, they don't feel that,
Yeah.
other other, professional organizers never doubt themselves.
Right.
Or other health and wellness professionals, they never doubt themselves. They've always got it together. They all, they're so confident. And I think part of that comes from the highlight reel that is social media. But
Right.
I'm sure it was a thing long before that. I
It
think people
was.
have always doubted themselves and always felt as though they were the only ones doubting themselves. So I think it's important to say, hey, you know what? Me too. Sometimes I have those days. Sometimes I have those days where I'm convinced that I don't know what I'm doing and you guys should not be paying me. But So Les, what do you do when you're having that monster creep up? How do you battle it?
Well, I go back to some key foundational things for me, and a little bit it's focused on three promises, and those promises have evolved and they've modified and they've grown and they've been strengthened and replaced. But the core root of it is that I promise I will create a story of greatness for myself. And a promise is a pretty sacred. It's a pretty sacred thing. When we talk about promises, we talk about covenants. We talk about an oath. When I joined the military, I was 17, and I raised my right hand to the square, and I swore an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and to defend and protect. Well, that just wasn't signing my name. It was something that happened inside my soul, inside my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I strived to live up to that. Well, that first promise is the foundation. And but other promises have come, and a good friend of mine, let's see if I get his book right here with me, Jason Hewlett, is taught this concept. He said, for instance, why set a goal when you can make a promise?
I like that.
His concept of, if you want to change your life, don't just say, a goal or a New Year's resolution I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to go to the gym, or make a promise to yourself. And Jason's teachings have added to mine. So I made a promise to create a new story. Then I made another promise that I would get back up every time. No matter what, I will get back up every time. So 2 weeks ago, and I'm in Florida. I'm with my beautiful wife, Elisa, 32 years of love. It's been a journey. It's had challenges. Part of it, I've made mistakes. That's part of life, right? And here I am celebrating this beautiful place, beautiful love, beautiful patience of Elisa. And I think, okay, I made a promise to create a new story. Well, I'm down. I don't want to create a new story. I don't. I want to wallow in my misery. Well, wait, hold on, Les. I've created another promise. I will get back up when I'm in the mud. I'm going to crawl and I'm going to get back up. Well, sometimes it means I have to accept help from someone else. So it's okay, Les, I can accept the encouragement of Elisa. I talk to her about what's going on. I can talk to God. I accept his encouragement. And I focused on another promise that I stay present and engaged. I don't do that anymore. I don't go into my old story anymore. I don't live there. And most of the time, that little process can get me out, sometimes even in moments, seconds. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. This particular time, for the first time in a long time, it was 3 really long days. And so that became the foundation, those 3 promises. And then other things, being active, being physically active. I mean, you want to activate the mind, Tony Robbins talks about, activate the physiology.
Exactly.
Get back into routines, or law of disruption, disrupt what you're doing, get out and go, get out and do, go serve, go serve someone else, go have a conversation, go walk the streets and, so to speak, and see just how beautiful, wonderful, and incredible life is.
I like the idea of a promise over a goal for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Ashley and I talk a lot about, especially I'm super, super anti New Year's resolutions, and I get a little soapboxy about it sometimes, but and I'm very sensitive about what kind of goals you set and how you set your goals. And because I feel like there's so much emphasis on, set goals, achieve your goals, do this, do that. But we aren't taught how to do it in a positive manner, in a way that is going to build us up. Most of the time, the way that we're taught to do it actually tears us down and causes more
Yeah.
sadness and disappointment than if we'd never set the goal in the first place. And that's simply because people don't understand, how to set a goal the right way, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of a promise, because when you say, I promised myself to be more present, like that, man, if I promise myself something, I'm all about personal integrity. And if I make myself, I mean, that's why last season I told my story of kind of finally deciding to put myself on a strict macro plan, even
Right. Yep.
that's what I've been doing for clients forever. But I didn't do it for so long because I have integrity in myself, and I know I'm not going to commit to something if I'm not going to do it. And so I never committed to it until then, because I wasn't ready. Right. And I think for me, if I say, I promise myself I'm going to do whatever, holy cow, that's heavy. Like I'm going to have to do that, because I could never let myself down. So I like that concept. And I think that would be beneficial for a lot of people to embrace that, as opposed to some other goal setting things.
I think part of this concept of a promise to create a new story, why it's the big umbrella, there's been lots of times that I have broken that promise. I've not kept that commitment. I've not lived to my integrity. And that's why those other sub promises, those follow-up promises are just as critical, because like the promise to get back up. Okay, because if I'm out running this race of life, well, sometimes just life, I'm going to trip. We're going to trip. Imagine we're out there and we're putting forth all of our effort and we're excited, and maybe in our enthusiasm we get clumsy, or we don't tie our shoes as tight, and boom, down we go. Well, that doesn't mean that we've lost. It doesn't mean that we have failed, because we made another promise. Oh yeah, I can get back up, and a toddler does that, right?
Yeah.
A toddler, we've got two little grandkids, and one is 3 and one is almost 2, and when they go walking along and they take a little tumble, what do? They either smile and get back up, they cry and they get back up.
Yep.
Sometimes mom and dad, or big brother, big sister, aunt, favorite aunt, gotta pick them up and say, "Oh, you've got it." Well,
Yep.
we can do the same for us. We say, "Hey, Ashley, you've got this. You can get back up." I'll say, "Yeah, I can.
And I think for me, it's almost, it's not just getting up for the sake of getting up. For me, it's getting up for the sake of taking responsibility for what's going on in my life. It's that ultimate. So forever ago, I listened to a book by Brian Tracy. I forgot his name there for a minute. By Brian Tracy, and I have his words I turned into a motto, and now I teach it. I make my kids say it anytime they put blame on everybody else, and they hate it because they know it's true. But to say, I am responsible, I am responsible, I am responsible. And I think, making that promise to ourselves to write a good story, and the promise to get up after you fall, is just taking that ultimate responsibility of, this is my life. It doesn't have to be in the hands of anybody else. It doesn't have to be, we had a previous podcast where we talked about, it might not be our fault that something happened, but it is our responsibility to figure out how to interact with that, and how to change that to a positive story, rather than wallowing in self-pity, or realizing that, playing the victim card. And to touch on your last promise, I was just listening to a podcast this week, and I believe, I am sorry if I get his name wrong. I believe the guest was Timothy McConkey Worthlin, if I remember that correctly. And he was saying the whole idea of being still doesn't have to be, going into yoga or going into a deep meditation. It doesn't even have to be prayer, but being still, and being still in a very loud, chaotic world, means being 100% present.
Yes.
It's
Right.
moving forward with focus and being 100% present. That creates a stillness because that puts blinders on. And so now to hear two people talk about it that same way in the same week is one of those like, okay, I need to be paying attention to this message.
Yeah,
One of those moments.
tapping you on the shoulder.
Yep.
Hey,
Hey, listen.
hello, listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love that promise to be 100% present in the moment. I think because you can learn so much in the act of doing what you're doing. You
Yes.
can learn so much, where, like Les, like you're saying, this is a lifelong journey, that the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're present in the moment and you learn from that moment and you learn how to turn that into the next page in your story, I mean, what a beautiful cycle you've created for yourself with these 3 promises. That you'll never get off of that cycle, that you can just keep going and going and going. And what an amazing, like, I'll read your novel by the end. I'll read that. I want to know what it says.
Well, as leaders, and the 3 of us here, we are each a leader. Actually, by title, we are a leader, but by birthright, by simply being born, we are a leader, because the leader is anyone who has influence on someone else. And that means a 2-year-old toddler is a leader, because that little 2-year-old toddler has a lot of influence on somebody else. Now, 2-year-old toddler is not going to necessarily be conscious about the opportunity to be a leader. So we get to think we are a leader, because everything that we do, like you said earlier, Ashley, every word that comes out of our mouth is going to have influence. Is our words, or will our words be intentional? Will they convey value, love, and trust? Will they do something that helps another person see just how beautiful and great that they are? Will our words that we think help us realize, okay, I can handle this situation? One of my 5 people is a coach. Her name's Jamie Carrier. I know, Ashley, Jamie, and she's been instrumental in my life in helping me live these promises, helping me change behavior. And she's taught this concept to me of, circumstances might be outside of my control, but my choices are mine. And so sometimes as business leaders, March of 2020 sent us all for a loop when the pandemic hit really hard and started shutting down, and a 2-week quarantine became 4 weeks, became 6 weeks. And now here we are almost a year, and we're still trying to figure this out. Well, in the midst of right when that happened, I was faced with that same situation. My business was drastically impacted. We saw an 80% loss in revenue in a 2-week time period.
Yeah.
And okay, what am I going to do here? Fear becomes paramount. Those old ugly truths that are so not true start living in my head. I thought, okay, I went to my foundational promises, and then I made another promise that, okay, I promise I will expand rather than shrink. I will expand into opportunities rather than shrink into limitations. Fear tells me to shrink. Quarantine tells me I can't do anything. The economy outside of my control, Jamie Carey reminds me no less, the choices are within my control.
Yeah.
So rather than react, in fact, if you switch I think it's just 2 letters in the word react, you create the word create.
Huh. I
Switch
love
2
things
words
like
around.
that. That's fun.
I was just gonna say,
It's a
I can
little
see Ashley
anagram.
out on that.
So reaction, creation, react, create. Create solutions. Before March of last year, I'd never used this program we're using right now, Zoom. I never used it. I had no idea how to use it. I figured it out, and I figured out, okay, I can share my voice. Well, guess what now? I can't do in-person meetings, but I can do online meetings. And all of a sudden, I expanded my reach. I was able to reach and share my voice of value, love, and trust with more people. Oh, guess what? Hey, Les, we want to hang out with you because we think you've got something to offer. So I thought, oh, well, what can I do? So I'll teach an online workshop. I'm already doing them in person, but I can't do them in person, limitation, but I can teach them online. So I figured it out. I got help, talked to skilled professionals. They taught me how to do it. I learned, I dug in. I expanded my reach. I expanded, I created. That's what it means to step into our greatness. That's why when I, as Les Patterson, step into my greatness as a person, then I, Les Patterson, as a leader, as a business owner, as a coach, as a mentor, well, then I can also step into my confidence there. As a dad, I can step into my confidence stronger. As a parent, as a spouse, as a neighbor, because I'm stepping into greatness right here.
Love it.
I love the idea of becoming great in whichever area you want to be great in, whether that is, like you said, whether that is as a business owner, as a parent, as whatever hat you're wearing at the time, to find that center of greatness. I think a lot of times the louder we get, the more we're just trying to cover up insecurities. The more could be is paramount to our success and is absolutely vital to becoming. I mean, it really is to walk through that journey, like you were talking about at the beginning, and to become the people that we want to be able to, when we see that greatness, we see our own capabilities.
Yes.
And we say, yes, I can have an amazing physical body. Yes, I can have order and cleanliness in my home. Yes, I can my family with. Yes, I can have control over the way I react to a certain situation. So to find that center and to find that greatness, I think is just the beginning. Like you said, it really is writing the story, but it's finding where to begin, that then we can springboard and now we can go from here. It's finding who we are to be able to build on that and to say, okay, now that was just a launch point. I found a certain amount of greatness, and now I have the entire ability to go and do something more with it and to continue that story of greatness.
And sometimes we need those external roles, like being a parent, for instance. Say, okay, I've got to step up to the plate here. I've got to be more present for my kids, or I've got to be more patient with them. Or, I've got a child who's got, special needs, and I've got to navigate this world for my child. But I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm up to it, but I have to, because my child or my spouse or my team is counting on me, or my customers, my clients are counting on me. So I've got to get up and do. I've got to figure it out. Well, sometimes we need that external role to help us live up to our internal role.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of goes like this, we feed a little bit because of our role as a parent or a owner, as a salesperson or a production worker. Well, that feeds our inner a little more, which gives us a little more capability in our roles, which feeds our inner just a little bit more, that inner story of greatness, of confidence, of beauty, of wonder, which makes us show up to work, show up as a parent, show up as whatever it is that we do a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little more engaged, a little more present, which feeds, and it just keeps, it's this beautiful, beautiful cycle. And the opposite of that is
That's not where we want to go.
no, but sometimes that happens, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Sometimes we have a bad day, or sometimes we have a bad experience. We could be interacting with somebody and somebody's really critical of us, and it hurts, and it can strike us down. And that's all right, because those are real feelings, and we process real feelings. It's okay, yeah, that hurt. And I might need to process it. I may feel some emotions. I may feel fear or hurt or anger or pain. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna feel that, because it hurt. It hurt my feelings, or I realized that, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. But then we go back into that inside. It's okay. Yeah, this was a moment that hurt. I'm going to get back up. I'm creating that story of greatness. I'm staying present, and okay, I'm going to go make amends because maybe I made a mistake, or I'm going to go have a hard conversation, or I'm going to say, hey, I'm not sure what you meant, but man, that really hurt my feelings. Or we deal with, we process, and we keep moving forward. The journey. That's why it is a journey versus, maybe Heather, you asked me earlier, is it that transition? I think it's just a continual journey.
Les, I think that's one of the things that makes you somebody that I love to follow, is that you're not afraid to feel those feelings. There was a saying, and you've probably heard this saying before in the military, but my husband used to say that, hey, there was to just sit in the suck. Like, I hate using that word. That's not something that I like.
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. You got to sit in the suck.
You got to embrace the suck. It's bad.
Yeah. But I didn't understand what that meant, because up until, I've gone through hard times in my life. But it wasn't until I had to face it, and I realized that I had to sit in that hurt and in that discomfort in order to overcome it. That it wasn't something that I could just laugh off. It wasn't something that I could circumvent. I had to sit in those feelings, and I had to sit in those emotions, and it hurt a lot. But it was sitting in that suck. It was sitting in that moment, holding on to it, owning it. Les, I know that you've gone through some pretty crazy things in the military, through some pretty traumatic family losses, through the things that you do, but you never shy away from those feelings and those emotions. You can sit in it and own it, and you come out on the other side all the better for it. And that, to me, is phenomenal, to watch people who can do that. Instead of going through something hard and coming out on the other side bitter and angry, to be able to watch people sit in those emotions and come out great on the other side, in the true sense of the word of great. It's so empowering to be able to see others do it, because then it gives you, it gives me that glimmer of hope to say, oh, okay, if I can sit through that, if I can sit through the hurt and the pain, then I have the ability to come out great on the other side too. And so that's one reason that I have really connected with you in particular, to be able to say, I am going to go ahead and feel all the feels. I'm going to embrace the suck and let that be part of my story. You know, every good story, every story that you want to read, that you want to listen to, always has the trial, always has the struggle. My kids just recently have come to they find it was like they turned on a switch, and all of a sudden they wanted to watch all of the Star Wars and all of the Lord of the Rings and all of the Harry Potters and all of the, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean and all of these movies, the Avatars and anything. And
Yeah.
they sat down and they watched all those stories, and they said, Mom, is there ever a movie that doesn't have a bad guy in it? And I said, no, there isn't, because then how do the good guys grow? How do they know they're the good guys? How are they ever going to win if they're not fighting against something? And of course, you know, that was a very simplistic conversation because I have little kids, but the concept is still there, is that there is conflict out there, and it can be internal conflict, and it doesn't even have to be between right versus wrong. It could be that conflict between better and best. But
Right.
there always has to be that bad guy, if you will, to make a good story. Otherwise, it just doesn't have that overcoming, that sense of triumph in the end, if you don't have that opposition, if you don't have the bad guy.
That's right. You know, Luke in Star Wars, you know, it's easy to see, well, he had, you know, Darth Vader, you know, was the contrast, but that wasn't the greatest conflict that Luke had to overcome. He had to overcome that he was this orphan child raised on that weird looking planet where they did farming with his uncle and aunt. And he had to get over the fact that he was just a kid. And Han Solo was a cool, dashing one, and who got the girl. And, you know, I'm just this kid, you know, and that internal struggle, if Luke Skywalker could not process and go through that internal struggle, he could not have successfully dealt with that very public struggle of defeating, you know, Darth Vader and everything associated with the Empire, you know, and, you know, the opposite of the Force. He had to figure this out right in here, and it's a journey. I mean, even again, you take that story to the end. Luke Skywalker is still processing. Is he a good enough guy? And as you know, one of the Jedi Knight now, he's a good enough? Is he a good enough person? Is his heart good enough? And I suspect, Ashley and Heather, I will I'll go to I'll go to my dying day, still wondering, am I good enough in here? But that's not going to stop me from keep trying. You know, it's not going to stop me from, you know, living those 3 promises. It's not going to stop me from trying and figuring things out and making mistakes and sharing, you know, some light and love and discovering joy and beauty and wonder along this journey.
Well, if that's not a good place to stop, I don't know where one is.
I know. Chills, goosebumps, all the good things. But no, it really is easy to see when I speak with Les, when I listen to him speak, it's really easy to see how we can make lemonade out of lemons, to take whatever it is that we're facing, to turn it into our story, but then to make that happiness, that heart, head, and health, you know, we can, the home, head, and health, that we can make all of them happy simply by choosing to keep promises to ourselves, choosing to live the power of three, and stepping into our own greatness. Because if we step into our own greatness, people will follow. You know, if you build it, they will come. If we recognize our own worth and our own greatness, people will be able to see that as well, and they will want to be in that same place that we are, and we will attract the right people that we want to be with. And so that's I think that's absolutely paramount to becoming who we want to become. So Les, thank you so much. If people want to join one of your masterminds or get in touch with you in any other way, how are they going to do that?
The easiest and best way, my friends, is find me on Facebook, Les Patterson, find me there, and hop on, have a conversation, introduce yourself, and tell me what's great about you. Find that one thing that says, wow, yeah, you know what? I am a great, or I am great because, and share that with me. I'd be honored to be able to hear that story, especially if it's a story I'm great because, I got back up.
Yeah,
Those are
I
the
love it.
greatest of all stories.
Wonderful. Excellent. We'll make sure that everybody has those links so that they can meet up with you and join the community of greatness. Thanks again, Les. We really appreciate your conversation.
Thank you, Ashley and Heather. What the two of you are doing, I mean, home, head, and health, it's not just a snazzy phrase. It really gets at the core and the root of the things that are most important. And hey, it's an awesome power of three. I love it.
There we go.
Hey,
The very last thing we ask people, and we don't tell you that we're going to ask this because we want an off the cuff answer. We present our listeners with a happy hack. So something that they can do right now to make their home, head, and health happy. So if there is one thing that you could say, hey, you can do this right now, what would it be?
Okay, here's one thing you can do right at this very moment. As soon as this podcast ends, as soon as you get done listening to it, stand up, literally stand up and go and do something physical. And why you do that, it could be a walk out to get the mail. It could be a walk downstairs to switch laundry around. It could literally be a walk around the block. It could be stand up and do some jumping jacks. Get up and do something physical. And while you do that, observe, find one little thing that is absolutely beautiful around you, and one little thing that is absolutely beautiful and great within you. So get up and move, find something beautiful around you, find something great inside you. Little power of three.
like it.
Ah, I love it. Thanks so much, Les.
Thank you. Truly an honor. My friends, I love you. It's really been an honor to be blessed by your love and your light and the great things that you bring. Thank you.
Thanks.